Sadisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Nithyanandam, welcome. This is my first live show with a live guest.
Nithyanandam.
Nithyanandam. I'm Nithya Mayatitananda, and I'd like to introduce Ma Nithya Chidambarananda.
Actually, Ma Nithya Chidambarananda.
Yes. From Australia.
Yes.
So she's one of the newest brahmacharyas. Swamiji initiated her. It was Ujjain, correct?
Ujjain, yes.
The Ujjain Kumbh Mela. I was just previous to her at the Nasik Kumbh Mela, so we're the Kumbh Mela gals. We went through our fire and brimstone and emerged in orange sari. So welcome.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you.
And as I mentioned yesterday, a lot of you might not have seen the inaugural show, but this show is just going to be a chat show where we all get to talk about the amazing things that have happened in our lives that have led us to Swamiji, what's happened once we've met Swamiji. So it's a very, I'm hoping it'll give some insight into the path different people have been on, and then maybe it'll help you understand your path a little better. So you have a fascinating story, and I think it's very universal when we've talked in the past. So
so basically, like I was sharing with you the other day.
Closer.
So as I was sharing with you the other day, my history was always, I was a seeker. So as a kid, I was always seeking in the sense of the moment I heard about the concept of God, I knew, okay, wow, this resonates with me. I really felt like this is true. This is a truth for me. So I always questioned, okay, so if there's a God, you know, why am I here? And then, like, why is there life? What is life? And what is God? And then who created God? So from a very young age, all of these questions were there within me.
Were you from a strongly religious family or just sort of a regular? Actually,
I was raised Roman Catholic. So that was my Purvashram father. That's the way he was raised. So religious in the sense of it was more kind of a strict tradition that we had to follow. So that Catholicism, that was a part of the identity. That was his identity so strongly, and he wanted to impart that on us. So what I gained from it was obviously the spiritual aspect of that.
Good.
So I'm grateful for that, even though, see, looking back, I feel that was a big part of, see, I suffered a lot during my whole life. I suffered from anxiety, depression, and a lot of that was from, okay, so there's this God that's out there which I believe in, and I want to connect to this God. I don't really know how, other than the way I've been taught, which is through, you know, prayer and beseeching him. So there's that aspect. But then you're also told as a Roman Catholic that you're a sinner. Everything you do, and I don't want to offend anyone by saying this. This is my, this is my experience. I don't want to offend anyone by saying this.
But this is the interpretation as a child.
This is as a kid and even growing up. Okay, so you're a sinner. Everything you do is a sin. We're dragged into confession. So I'm like, okay, there's this God which is so far away from me, and I feel like I'm here by myself, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to beseech him. And from what I read in the Bible, and I really used to immerse myself in the Bible because that was the only spiritual reference that I had, he's ferocious, he's fierce, you know, and I'll be punished, I'll go to hell. So there was always this distance between me and the divine. So I think that kind of added to my suffering when I was calling out for help, and I felt like my prayers weren't being answered. So that was a big, big part of my life growing up. Yeah.
Well, and it's terrifying too, because it makes you feel like if you get close to the divine, it's going to be a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is frightening.
Well, that's the whole thing, is the whole religion, the whole concept is based on, in the end, there's this big judgment. You know, there's almost these scales where your good deeds and your bad deeds will determine whether or not you get to spend the rest of your life or your eternal life in heaven with this God, or in hell with this devil. And I was like, oh my God. Actually, I remember as a kid, one of the, would force me to go to Sunday school. So every Sunday we would go to church, and then we would have lessons from the priest. And I remember, so anyone that's, I can't believe we're talking about the Bible, but my God, at the back of the Bible there's this thing called the Revelation, right? And it's like the end of days, what's going to happen at the end of days. And I remember reading it as a kid. I didn't sleep for 1 week. Seriously, I was terrified as a kid. I was like crying every night. I was like, oh my God, like I've sinned, I'm a sinner, and I don't want to be tortured for eternal, like for the rest of my existence. So thinking
it must have been a shock for you to hear Swamiji say the only thing that's recorded in the Akashic records as a sin is like a premeditated murder, or not a causing suffering.
Yes.
is the sin.
Yes.
Even if you've done something that the law considers bad, if you actually haven't caused suffering, it's not recorded.
It's so different. It's so different. So actually that's why, and when I found Swamiji first, for the first time ever, I actually experienced God through meditation, through going beyond all of these things that I was stuck in. I relaxed into the experience of the divine, which I was seeking for so long. And I was like, oh God, this is it. You know, this is what, and see, at a certain point, the Bible and relating to God through suffering led me nowhere. So,
and this was through Australia, right? This was you on the other side of the planet almost.
Yeah. Actually, I was courageous enough, despite this whole, thinking, okay, see, I even had the concept of if I go outside of this religion, I'm condemned, I'm damned, right? So, but anyway, I was curious. So I remember the first time I read the Bhagavad Gita, the first time I purchased it, and I sat down and I read it, and I was like, yes, this is universal. Wonderful. The truth is universal. This is not what I've thought it is, and I was so grateful for that. So that was actually, I think that me even picking up that book, reading it, buying it, whatever, that was kind of the turning point before Swamiji, before everything, that opened up my mind. So, and I can see like the fanaticism in religions around the world, people are so stuck in this doctrine, in this, because they're brought up from a young age to believe it, they're...
Well, and the underlying fear, like you say,
the fear is huge. Yeah.
Part of your religion was fear, and I wasn't raised Roman Catholic, but I was raised in Christianity, and it's still underlying fear.
Yeah, that's how they control people. Like, and that's the other thing. When I love history, ancient history and history, and then when I was actually reading medieval history, and when the Roman Catholic Church first got established, and how they controlled people through this fear, through this whole, okay, so if you give us money, then we'll absolve you of your sins and you'll go to heaven. If not, you're condemned. And I'm like, oh my God, so this is what I was, this whole fear. And see, fear and greed we get controlled with anyway. Our whole lives we're oscillating between the two. But I'm just so grateful that I'm out of that trap, that's the biggest thing for me.
So you, did you do one of the small two-way video conferences with Swamiji, or?
See, when I first found Swamiji, this was, again, I went through a lot of depression and a lot of suffering. So I was in this relationship that abruptly ended. And that ending, so he kind of said he doesn't love me anymore, and I was reeling, this was my life. All of a sudden I was left by myself. So I was in this pit of depression, and I wasn't eating, I was losing weight. I was constantly praying to God, saying, help me. I was suicidal, on the verge of suicide. So contemplating, okay, I'm going to jump in front of a train. I'm going to end my life. It was at that point. And then anyway, I was intensely, like I said, crying out to God for help. I was basically saying, you know what, if you don't help me, this is it. I'm done. And amazingly enough, so a series of events happened. I ended up, through prayer, having a spiritual experience. I ended up having what I know now, I recognize as a Kundalini awakening.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't know. It was just the most beautiful, profound experience. And once that happened, there was a calm, there was a peace in me. And I thought, oh God, okay, I don't know what this is, but I have to research and find out more about it. So the symptoms that I had in my body, so whatever that Kundalini experience was, I was Googling it. And then through that I found Kundalini and, the word Kundalini. I'd heard about it before vaguely, like I didn't really have an understanding of what it was. And then so I was reading up about it, and I was like, I think this is what I've had. Like, I think this is it, and this sounds like it's something really profound. And so even though I had found this, I was still doubting in myself that what I had experienced was a true thing. I was on the other side, I'm thinking, okay, I'm self-diagnosing myself. There's no one I can ask. I could very well have a brain tumor.
I'm delusional.
I'm delusional. Like, I could be having a nervous breakdown or something, and here I am saying, yeah, I'm having a Kundalini experience. Right. I'm so spiritual. Meanwhile, my body's breaking down. So anyway, through this, I found there was a YouTube video about what was it again? N Kriya for Kundalini Awakening, and there was Swamiji. So it was the first time I ever found. Randomly, I found him on YouTube.
That's pretty spectacular because we know it's not random now, but it's always wonderful, and you find out you can be anywhere and you get guided.
Yeah. So so this video, I opened it up and I was like, immediately I felt connected with this man on the other end. He was just beautiful and divine, and I didn't know anything about gurus. I knew nothing about, like I said, my background was purely Christian. That was my understanding of religion and spirituality. So I said, okay, I've got nothing to lose. Let me try this, whatever this technique is. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, okay, so be it. I tried. And anyway, that first time that I did it, I was like, I remember pausing it and, trying to follow, because there's like 4 or 5 different steps. And I was so sincere in doing it, So when I did it that first time, all of the experiences that I had in that spontaneous experience, they intensified. It was like
through the YouTube video.
Through the YouTube video. So I'm following these breathing techniques, and I can feel this energy from the base of my spine, which is literally serpent-like, weaving its way through my body, and I'm like, oh God, So, and from then on, I was just like, every day I did it. For 21 days, sincerely. So this thing you're meant to do for 21 days. But in the meantime,
how did it affect you mentally? Like, did you feel a bit of a calmness?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The calmness and everything. Actually, it was weird. Like, looking back, I started lucid dreaming. So when I would sleep at night, the moment I would fall asleep, actually, I was almost fully conscious. So I could control myself, and like I would fly to different places, and it was so bizarre. Like, looking back now, all of that's kind of stopped.
What a 360 from the depression.
You're not wrong. But see, not just that. So that there was part of me doing this kriya, but at the same time, after this relationship ended abruptly and whatever, there was a shift in me, in my heart, in my being. I knew I was never going to be in a relationship again. It was a knowing. It's like my body shut down from all of these things that, hormonally, even mentally, emotionally, everything. It was like, I almost felt like something shut inside me. So it was just the timing and everything was, like, looking back, it was too perfect the way I found Swamiji.
And as Swamiji says about, sometimes we have to relive something from a past life to complete it. And maybe that was it. You had to finish that one relationship issue. Yeah. And because then you knew it was done.
That's what, maybe. Yeah, maybe. And that, that's what got me, is I knew this was my path. I was so, I started watching other videos of Swamiji. So it was this one that got me kind of hooked. And then from there, I was finding other ones. And so for like, I don't know how many weeks, I was virtually a hermit. I didn't leave my home. I was just watching video after video. I would copy his hand gestures. As he was talking, I would try and mimic him. And I was so in love. Like, really, I felt such a deep, deep connection. So this is happening on the one side. And then on the other side, I've got my friends and family that are so deeply concerned. I was still kind of keeping this to myself. They knew I was going through some depression. They could also sense a shift in me. They didn't really know what it was. Like, God knows what they would have been thinking. But see, what confused me at a certain point was they were saying, so why don't you get into a relationship again?
Why don't you shoot yourself in the other foot now?
Isn't it time, And this was only like a few months afterwards. And I was thinking, no. And I was arguing with them saying, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm not there anymore. I've moved into something else. I don't know what it is, but it's not that. And then even that, like from work and my friends and my family, I started questioning, okay, maybe I am crazy. Like, maybe I should look into having a relationship again. Maybe I should be doing that, So I'm glad I didn't.
But you can see how easy it is to, as Swamiji said, it's so important who you're hanging out with.
Oh my God, yes.
People will just pull you back into the bucket. You can't escape. You've got to stay here with us.
Yeah. There's almost a fear in, I could sense that, especially my family, initially, there was a fear in, where are you going? This is not what we're used to. There was questioning of what's happening here, Now they're deeply supportive, and I mean, still there's completion to be done, but it's a big shift from what it was, so. But yeah, so I found this beautiful Swami through YouTube, and then I decided that, no, I have to find him. I was watching one of his videos, and I saw these people in the audience, and I was thinking to myself, I have to find him. And so I was asking people in Australia, do they know about this Swami? They said, no, we know nothing about him. And I said, that's fine, whatever, I'll leave it. I'll continue watching him on YouTube. That's not a problem. And then maybe a few weeks after deciding that, one of my work colleagues said, let's go to this festival, which is very popular in Melbourne, this Mind, Body, Spirit Festival. And we're walking through, and I see this banner which has Nithyananda written on it, and I see his face. That face. And I turned to my friend and I said, you're not going to understand, but this is him. Like, I've been looking for him, and I ran over, and the Mahant of Australia, Ma Nirbeda, was there, and I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I've been looking for him, and he's here. And I literally came home and I was just jumping. I was jumping for joy. So it actually took me a while before I went to my first. So I found him in Australia, or rather he found me, whichever way you want to put it. So it took me a while because of all of this, questioning, is this the right path? Should I be going out with my friends and doing the normal things? I kind of slipped back into depression again before I went to my first program, which was a Kalpataru in Melbourne. So I went through a few ups and downs.
Well, and like they say, the thought pattern, it's like a needle getting stuck in a record.
Yeah.
Once that thought pattern's in there, your mind telling you, no, we have to stay depressed because that's familiar.
Yes.
Yes. Don't you be... We're going to skip here forever. So the Kalpatara, that was a two-way, so you actually got to...
That was the first time. Oh, that was amazing. And even there, you're meant to, so it's manifesting your reality. So you're meant to write one thing that you want for yourself. So I didn't know, I had this confusion where I've got this peer pressure and people saying, come on, you're meant to get married, you're meant to settle down. And I was thinking, no, okay, everyone else in the world is, and maybe this is my path as well. On the other hand, I was so inspired by Swamiji. I wanted that enlightenment. What he had, I knew that was my goal. So I kind of, on the piece of paper, on the one hand, I wrote, settling down and having a family, whatever. And on the other hand, I wrote enlightenment. And then, so we were working through incompletions. That was my first understanding or learning of what an incompletion is. And I had these big clicks. I was like, oh God, this is where my suffering has been coming from. Like, it's all in my head. It always was. That light bulb. Mm-hmm. So then the moment I was in front of Swamiji, it's the first time ever in front of that camera, and he basically said, okay, tell me what you want. And my mind went blank.
That happens to everybody, yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. But I was like, I don't know. Like, I didn't know. And in that moment, I was like, okay, what is it? And then I think my wording was maybe a bit different, but I said to experience oneness with the Master, which was not even what I wrote in the paper. I wrote enlightenment. And he said, Tatastu, or blessings, I am with you, something like that. And I walked away and I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I was blushing.
It was like a hidden part of you leaped out. And
I walked away blushing and I'm like, whoa, what does that mean? And what are they going to think? Like, why did I say that? But anyway, I was so elated. Like, I came home and I was jumping, and my Purvashram mum was there at the time. And I was saying I got to speak to him. Like, I actually spoke to him. You don't understand. And she was actually seeing my expression and the happiness. She was so happy. Genuinely, she was happy. But but I never, like, you know, I didn't think that was ever going to happen. You know, in that moment when I was looking for him, and I really decided that, okay, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to find this man. Wherever he is, it's gone. It's lost.
Well, and that's what's so astonishing, that he's so tech savvy that is probably one of the only gurus in the world that you can have direct experience and be that far away.
Yeah, which I'm so grateful for. Like, look at how many countries around the world get to experience this, you know? I never would have thought it's possible. So, very grateful.
Well, and that's what, it takes a while to grasp that that energy can be transmitted through the internet, and it's not. We're all in the energy field. He just has to see you to plug you in, and you plug into the energy that's there. But, you know, our logical mind is going, well, how can this possibly travel down a wire and affect me? You know, so we have such a limited grasp of the quantum physics that's running this universe. And so when did you get to physically be in his presence after the Kalpataru?
So that Kalpataru, I remember, was February. And then, so that was, where are we now? We're 2016, right? So that was February 2015.
So just last year.
Last year. Last year, that was, everything happened so quickly. When I think back, it was like... Actually, you know, like I was saying, I was living this way, like almost like at that brink of finding Swamiji, when I felt something closed inside of me. I was kind of living that anyway.
It's like you took sannyas on your own. Yeah,
that's really, I feel that. It was almost like a conscious decision, and I chose this life, you know. So the robes, really, for me, it was just a matter of matching my inner space. I felt like, okay, now the outside matches what I feel on the inside.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Especially being in the outside world, you know.
Always, and that's what I found. You're always feeling like you have to apologize for, sorry, I don't want to go drinking with you all tonight. No, I don't want to go to the mall for the whole day. Yeah, it becomes impossible. And that's what I found, is I no longer belonged in that world.
Yeah. Actually, I always, thinking back, I never felt like I belonged anywhere, you know. And I think, I don't know, I was originally born in Croatia, and my parents came to Australia when I was 2.5. So that feeling of alienation and being different and not belonging was always a part of me. It was always there. Yeah. So I've carried that with me. And so in this aspect as well, it was just, okay, another dimension of that same thing, you know, like, again, I just don't belong. Right. But finally, after finding Swamiji, I was like, okay, I belong there.
So was it the February Inner Awakening last year? Or?
May in Varanasi, which was a packed Inner Awakening. That was like 700 people there.
That's huge.
Yeah. So, and actually, I'm sure it was the first darshan that I had. The first thing I asked Swamiji was for sannyas.
Really?
Yeah.
So had you Googled it and just read up on it on our website, or it just was in there?
See, after that Kalpataru that I had, I became very close with the Australian Sangha. So I started attending more and more programs, and then I formed a very close relationship with Manirabeda. Actually, the second Kalpataru I went to, I knew this whole being a monk. I didn't know the word was sannyas. I knew that being a monk was where I was traveling down. And then she actually explained that, yeah, you can be a sannyasi. This is a path that you can take. And I was like, okay, this is it. So that first darshan, I'm sure it was the first darshan, I wrote blessings to be a sannyasi. And
I'm sure he loves it when that happens too, that someone just, no beating around the bush. Here it is.
Yes. Actually, even in Varanasi, I made the decision before I asked him for blessings for sannyas. I had in my mind that whether he said yes.
One moment. We've gone dark. Yanatma. There we go.
Yeah, I made the decision whether he said yes or no that I was walking that path. I wanted it to be with him because for me, I felt like, yes, he's my guru. Yes, he's the person that I want to be, a direct disciple of.
But that's great clarity that it was the goal. You were very clear.
Yes. Yeah. So, and even, I fell in love with Varanasi. I recommend everyone at some point in your life, you have to visit Varanasi. The beauty of that city is just...
And the frequency, I could not believe the
energy.
Gentleness and the lightness, considering its body's exiting, right? It's the biggest cremation ground in the world, and yet that lightness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I fell in love with Varanasi so much. I was contemplating, even if he said no, I'm happy to run away. I'll be a sadhu here, and I'll roam, the same way Swamiji roamed, I was prepared to do that. And I was happy to do that. My life was actually...
And I bet you would have been great at it, too.
Well, the yearning was so strong that's a lot of the time people ask me, why sannyas? Why this? You're giving up everything. And I was like, no, I haven't though. The yearning for the divine is so strong. That's the be all and end all. There's nothing else for me. There's nothing else holds any flavor. Nothing else holds any...
Well, and you get that sense everything else is wasting my time.
Yeah. There was... The only thing that gave me fulfillment was that. So that when I think back on that yearning, I was just so desperate for sannyas. I was so ready for it. So
what was his reaction? Was it another tatastu?
Actually, where he was reading it, I remember, I'll never forget this. He was reading it and then he looked up and he had this no, I wouldn't say surprise, but his eyes were big and he said, my blessings.
That's what I mean, for the first ones that come up.
And his reaction was just I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know what to expect. I was just so happy. I was beaming at him. I was like, thank you.
That's fantastic.
So I skipped up the stage. But
because in most cases he probably waits right till the end of inner awakening because I know he said he knows the souls that he incarnated with, and he's trying to find us to wake us up.
Yeah.
And so to have one just bound up on stage,
give me sannyas.
That's right. I demand it.
I demand it. I'm ready. If not, I'm going to be a sadhu anyway. So.
That's probably why he loves the Australian group, right? It's that Australian pioneer.
Yeah.
Hand it over.
Yes.
So, did you come straight here from Varanasi, or did you go back to Australia?
I went back. See, I was working full time. I had this life that I was so entangled with, which I found very difficult, actually. So going back to that, I felt kind of torn. And I remember speaking to Jnana Swarupa Swami. I was saying, so he's given me blessings and this is here now, but how do I get there? How do I take this leap into becoming a sannyasi? So there was a lot of, I went back, I had to pay off my debts, I had to tie up a lot of loose ends.
Yep.
So May was inner awakening and then it's virtually taken a year. So Ujjain Kumbh Mela was almost a year, and that was a lot of churning and a lot of... incompletions came up, and a lot of immature cognitions that I had also about what this lifestyle would be.
Right.
I had to go through all of that to get me here and appreciate, which is why Swamiji does what he does. He so beautifully prepares us. So,
well, I'll have to get you back. Our time has zoomed out, and I first noticed Ma Chidambaram when she was at Ujjain. Swamiji put her in charge of the back door, which was the main entrance, and he gave her a huge trishul, and she was like this Amazon princess at the back of the room, and it was amazing.
That was insane, yes.
Because he gave her the instruction, do not let anybody in or out, or depending on where we were in the process, and everybody knew who you were. It was really something.
It was really cool. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
We'll close with the Purna mantra.
Yes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sadguru Padukar Panamastu. Om Nithyanandam.